Hey guys, what is up? It's Savannah. That intro feels so crazy to be saying again, but hi, I've missed you so much. I am so excited to be on this new journey, and I'm not going to lie, I am very nervous, which I wasn't expecting until the nerves hit me about a week ago. I feel like this is the first day of school and I'm like walking in and hoping that I'm going to make friends and that people are going to like me. Because I've wanted to start this podcast for literally the longest time. You guys have no idea. So with that being said, welcome to my new podcast, My Thoughts Exactly. And I am so happy that you are here and to be doing this. We have so much to talk about today and so much to go through. Today's podcast is definitely going to be more of like an introductory episode. I want to catch you up all on where I've been, what's been going on, where this podcast is going, what this podcast even is, what I see for it in the future, all of it. So again, today's podcast episode is definitely going to be more of an introduction than anything else. I thought it would be a little weird to just jump right into what should be an episode 2, 3, or 4 without even like explaining anything, if that makes sense. So before we get started, I just want to do like a quick overview because I know that, especially with this being the first episode, a lot of you guys are going to be coming over and listening here because you've known me from other social platforms, especially, like I said, this is the first episode. But if you are new, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Savannah Breimer, and I have been doing social media for about almost 6 years at this point, which is absolutely insane. I started out doing lifestyle and entertainment videos. That was my thing for a long time. I did heartbreak pep talks, what would Sav do videos, drive with me's, favorites videos, playlist videos. God, I love a good playlist video. Those are the types of videos that I made, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Now, about 6 to 8 months into doing social media, I started incorporating true crime into my YouTube channel. And about, I want to say a year and a half, maybe 2 years into my YouTube channel, I created a podcast called Killer Instinct. I still have that podcast to this day. And true crime always has been such a big passion of mine, and I absolutely love Killer Instinct. It is my biggest pride and joy, but there was always such a big part of me that wanted to go back to where all of this started, which at the end of the day was just connecting with you guys. And with Killer Instinct, it's not the same. I love Killer Instinct. Again, pride and joy, but it's just not the same type of connection that I used to have with you guys. So that's where the thought of My Thoughts Exactly came about. But let's talk about the name My Thoughts Exactly, because it's actually pretty funny. So for the name My Thoughts Exactly, obviously the idea of the podcast came before the name. I'm very much a perfectionist, so I want things to be done a certain way, and I often procrastinate, and I want them to be very strategic and perfect, and I want it this way, and I know what I want in my mind. But when it came to the name of this podcast, that's where things started to struggle because I didn't know what to name it. You know, we were brainstorming so many different name ideas, and the name is always the really exciting part because, you know, it makes things feel more real, if that makes sense. So a couple months ago, we were brainstorming all these different types of names. And then one day I was walking in a Barnes & Noble and I saw this notebook, and on it just said, My Thoughts Exactly. And I remember it just clicked, like right there in my head, it just clicked. And all of the time that I spent wanting it to be strategic and wanting it to be this or wanting it to be that, it all went out the window because I was like, that's it. That's the name. Now, funny enough, if you're watching me on YouTube right now, this right here is that exact notebook. So this notebook right here, My Thoughts Exactly. And I just think it's perfect because I plan on giving you guys my unsolicited thoughts about absolutely everything. I plan on talking about body image and friendships and relationships and health and wellness and breakups and makeups and the social standard and everything in between that comes along with it. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of life. We're all going to go through it, but you should never have to feel like you're alone in doing it and alone in that process. And while we're talking about all of it, I'm also going to be giving you guys my own personal experiences and stories and advice. And I'm also going to be looking to you guys as well. Something that's really exciting to me about this podcast is that it's going to be collaborative, which is something that I've missed with you guys. I miss doing the What Would Sav Do segments and the Heartbreak Pep Talk segments. And if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, a What Would Sav Do is essentially where you give me a scenario that's happening in your life and I tell you what I would do. Hence, what would Sav do? Heartbreak pep talks are a little bit more vague and they're a little bit more of a rant. I usually stick to one specific topic and then just let my mind and my mouth go. And since we're on the topic of this being a collaborative podcast, this will probably be the best time to tell you that I do have an Instagram for this podcast, and that's where a lot, or really all, of those What Would Sav Do scenarios, Heartbreak Pep Talk scenarios, questions for the ends of the podcast that we're going to be doing, because we also will be doing those types of segments as well. Everything is going to be coming from the My Thoughts Exactly Instagram page. So if you have not yet, make sure you go follow it. It is just My Thoughts Exactly podcast. And what's crazy is that I've been sitting on this podcast for so long, and we'll get into that in a bit, but I never announced it. I've known about this podcast the idea of it has been going on for about a year, and then becoming more serious about it and having it actually, be a tangible thing has been more recent. That's probably been within the last 6 months, but it's never really felt super real because no one knew about it. And I was just working on Killer Instinct. And, in the process of all of that, I've been doing a million other things. So My Thoughts Exactly has never really felt like a real thing until last night, because last night I posted about My Thoughts Exactly and how this was going to be a podcast and this new journey that we're starting, and seeing you guys be so excited about that and seeing you guys, talk about how you've been here since the beginning and you've been watching for 4 or 5 years and, this is the type of content that you signed up for. It's very, very exciting. So if you haven't followed the Instagram page yet, make sure you go do that, because again, that's where all the updates are going to be. That's where I'm going to get, question, what would Sav do, submissions. And I'm so excited. Like I said, this is a collaborative podcast. And just as much as it is my podcast, My Thoughts Exactly is also yours too. So I've been in the podcast space for about 3 years now. And before we move any forward, I feel like I need to pause and say that this podcast is definitely going to be more of an introductory podcast. And I feel like there's a lot to fill you in on and catch you up on. And when I was writing, my ideas for this podcast, it all felt very like me based. Like I'm telling you where I've been and what I've been doing and what I've been up to and my, experience in podcasting. And I just want you to know that that's not going to be how it is. This is just the introduction to what's to come. And like I said in the beginning, it just didn't feel natural to jump right on into what the second episode of this podcast is going to be, which I'm very excited about. But I knew that we just had a lot of catching up to do. So when I'm talking throughout this episode, it definitely feels a little bit more like self-centered based, but that's just because we have a lot to catch up on and I have a lot to tell you about. And like I said, not going to be this way for the rest of time. So just bear with me. So in terms of why I wanted My Thoughts Exactly to be a podcast and why I didn't just jump into, YouTube videos again and just vlogging and things like that, is because I've been in the podcast space for about 3 years now with Killer Instinct, and it is something I'm very familiar with. While I do love YouTube and I love YouTube videos and I love the process of making them and editing them and uploading them, social media is just different. And I think we can all agree on that. YouTube is not the same as what it used to be a couple years ago. Things are just different and it doesn't feel as authentic, social media as a whole. And when I expressed to you guys on YouTube, because I did make a vlog, I think back in May on YouTube, and I talked to you guys about how I wanted to start a new podcast. You guys were so over the moon supportive of it, and it made me so excited. And you guys expressed that this is something that you would really want. And when I started social media, I was 20 years old, and now I'm 25. I'm going to be 26 in January. So that birthday is coming up. And if you've been here anytime in between now and then, you've definitely watched me grow up. And we've almost, in a sense, grown up together, which sounds like very Hallmark-esque, but it's very true. And the fact that we've grown up together and talked about, life experiences together and shared different stories together, it honestly is one of the coolest experiences ever. And it's something that's probably one of, if not my favorite parts of doing all of this, is the fact that we all get to grow and evolve together. And like I said, Killer Instinct has always been my biggest pride and joy. It is my baby. It's not going anywhere. And when I posted that Instagram announcing my thoughts exactly, I saw a lot of you that were nervous that, Killer Instinct wasn't going anywhere, but that's not the case. Killer Instinct is staying. And like I mentioned, I just wanted to return to where it all started, which was connecting with you guys and navigating through life together. Because I saw a definite pattern in the progression of my social media journey once I solely stuck to Killer Instinct. Every time I post a Killer Instinct video, I get a bunch of comments saying that you miss my old content. And then I would post a video of, a vlog or a playlist or something like that. And I get comments saying, this isn't what I like. I want the Killer Instinct videos. And I just came to the conclusion, why not hit two birds with one stone and do two podcasts that cover two different sectors, two different types of content that I know and love. So please do not worry. Killer Instinct is not going anywhere. We are just now doubling up on the content. We're doing a podcast for Killer Instinct. We also do video versions of Killer Instinct as well. We're going to be doing podcast versions of My Thoughts Exactly and video versions of My Thoughts Exactly. So since we're on the topic of navigating life and what's going on in each other's lives and wanting to be connected and updated, I think now is the perfect time to catch you guys up on what's been going on since I've had my, 2.5 year hiatus from posting lifestyle entertainment content. So let me fill you in. So I lived in San Diego from 2012 all the way up to September of 2021. So last year. And that is when I decided to make my move to Nashville, Tennessee, where I currently am. So I just hit my 1-year mark of living in Nashville about a little over a month ago, a couple weeks ago. And like I said, before that, I was living in San Diego. I was working on Killer Instinct, and I have been doing that from then up until this point on, and obviously continuing. But there was always something missing over the last few years of living in San Diego. I knew that I wasn't being fulfilled in life the way that I wanted to, and I knew that the only way to find some sort of fulfillment was to get out of my comfort zone. I was doing the same thing every day in the same place that I had been for 10 plus years, and something needed to change. Now, I'm not saying that that's, the case for everyone. There's certain people that are born and raised in their hometowns. They stay there through their entire life and they love it. I know for me, working from home, working pretty much, I don't see anyone when I go to work. I just see myself. And over time doing that, I noticed that I needed to make a change for myself. And I knew that I loved Nashville. I lived here for a year during my freshman year of college, and I had been visiting ever since. I have family here. My sisters live here. I have nieces and nephews here. So I always knew that if I was going to leave San Diego and go anywhere, it was going to be in Nashville. So it was just a matter of when. And last year was that when. And if you would have told me this time last year that I would be living in a house with a boyfriend and a dog and be working on Killer Instinct and starting a brand new podcast, my head would have probably spun all the way off my body. Because when I moved to Nashville, I was really over everyone. I was over everyone and I was over everything. And I was like, I just want a fresh start and a blank slate. And I just want to start over. I'm 24. This is the time to do it. I have nothing holding me down. I didn't have, a boyfriend. I didn't have a work commitment. I didn't have anything. So I was like, I'm going to do it now. And so the fact that that's where I was last year and this is where I am today is very, very different. So I met my boyfriend, his name is Hayden, in November of 2021, so about a year ago. And when I moved to Nashville, like I said, I was over everyone and I was in no position of wanting or even looking for a relationship. I mean, I was on the apps, as a lot of people are, but I wasn't, looking or seeking a relationship because I was just fed up. I was fed up with men in general. And I'm not the type that's like, oh, I hate men, like men are trash. But I was just having a phase where I was over it. And it's crazy. They always say that when you stop looking, the right one comes along. And it just sums up perfectly what happened in my life. West Coast guys to me were absolutely not it. After living in the West Coast for so long, I was so over West Coast guys. I was over them. And I was just like, I want something different. I want to have fun. I don't want to deal with this anymore. So I moved to Nashville and started making friends and started experiencing life here, which, by the way, no one ever talks about how difficult it is to make friends as an adult, especially when you're moving somewhere where you're brand new and you don't know anyone. I had family here, so I was lucky to have some sort of a support system. But moving to a new place where you don't know anyone, it is so hard to make friends as an adult. And it's something that no one ever talks about. And it's something that moving across the country to a brand new city, I really didn't even think about because no one ever talks about it. The whole experience of making friends as an adult, meeting these friends, that's the first step. And then continuing a friendship when you don't work together. It's not like you go to the same school. It's very difficult. But luckily, I have been able to form some really solid friendships here that I'm really, really grateful for. And I can make a whole episode on how to make friends as an adult because after living here for a year, I've been grateful enough and lucky enough to create friendships that I value. And I'm the type of person where I want quality over quantity. I would rather have one really solid friend than 12 friends just to be able to say that I have friends. And that may be not for everyone, but that's just how I look at it. And yeah, that's going to be a whole other episode. But along with friendships and going out and, when you move somewhere new, you're always saying yes to things because you want to be able to go out and explore and experience and meet new people. At least that was my experience. And in doing so, I went to a bar and met my now boyfriend. So that's how that worked. Along with all of that, I also have a dog. I have a Bernese Mountain Dog puppy. His name is Church. We got him in August, and he is the love of my life. Like, I know growing up, if you're someone that likes dogs, you're always going to like dogs, but it's different when it's your dog, because when it's your dog, it's literally your child. It's just a whole different experience. So I have a boyfriend, I've got a dog, have 2 podcasts now, and I've also been sporadically throughout the year taking my health more seriously than ever. And that includes my mental health, my physical health, all of it. And again, that is a whole episode that is coming soon. And I know that there were multiple times over the past, year and a half, 2 years on YouTube where I would make a coming back video and I would come back and I would say, this is why I was gone and I just wasn't ready. And, now I'm in the right mindset. So now you can't get rid of me and I'm here to stay. And all of these different things. And that was a repeating cycle. I think I made 3 of those videos. And it was just a facade to everyone, including myself, to try and prove to everyone, including myself, that I was fine. And it just was total BS. It was so not true. And when I look back at those videos, I'm almost like wanting to shake my laptop, being like, stop lying to yourself. It's crazy. But now I can confidently say that I wasn't in the right headspace then. However, I am now. I am ready. I am excited. And you're not getting rid of me this time. You're not. Sorry. So anyways, there has been a lot of adulting happening right now, but honestly, I really couldn't be happier. And I feel like I am in the perfect place to start this journey with my thoughts exactly and to connect with you guys again and to help both of us navigate through life, because just as much as I'm here to help you, I think you guys don't really understand how much you help me as well. And life has been very, very different for me without my old type of content where I literally shared every minute detail of my life. And that's why for a really long time, for the time that I took this hiatus, I really valued my privacy, and I still do, but it's just in a different way. Because before I had started My Thoughts Exactly, I had got to the point that I did not want anyone to know anything about me or my life or what I was doing. And that was a total 180 from what I was originally doing. Because when I look back on old videos, I had absolutely no filter. I was vulgar. I was explicit. So sorry to my mother for having to sit there and watch these videos about all of the, nitty gritty details of her daughter's life. But like, honestly, looking back, I cannot believe that I opened up to you guys in the way that I did. But, I don't regret it. I don't take that back. I am happy that I did that because that's what I needed to do at that time. And it led to me connecting to you guys on such a personal level. Like, for God's sakes, I told you guys about how I lost my virginity. Like, I think that we are on a very personal level. But when you go from one furthest end of the spectrum, so like that being how explicit and detailed I was on my, everything that was going on in my life, my friendships, my relationships, my mental health, everything, to then going to the complete opposite end of that spectrum of being like, I don't want anyone to know anything about what I'm doing. It's hard to find that middle ground or to even believe that there's a middle ground, period. And that's the spot that I want to get to. And everything that I did up until about 2 years ago was based on being so fully transparent with you guys. And that included the good and the bad that came along with it. And I've said it probably 5 times in this podcast about how much I love Killer Instinct, but I definitely think I hid behind Killer Instinct a little bit because it was just easier to tell other people's stories instead of mine. And that's not to say that it's easy to talk about true crime cases. That's not the point that I'm getting at. It was just more of a mask where I didn't have to talk about my personal life. And granted, no one's here forcing me to talk about my personal life now. I just miss you guys and I want to start a new journey with you all over again. But what I'm saying is I think for a while I got comfortable being private and I got comfortable in my own bubble and not letting anyone in. But at the end of the day, again, my goal here is to connect with you again and for you to feel like you can connect with me again. And I know that the only way that that's going to happen is if I'm transparent. And that is something that I'm willing to do. And it's something that I want to do. Do you guys know how many story times I have for you? Oh my God, I have an abundance of story times. I was single for 2 years. That's a lot of time. 2.5 years. Yeah, that's a lot of time for me to rack up some good stories for you guys. So the best way to put all of this, I think, is that I've just been trying to figure life out, as everyone is. And I've talked about it multiple times in the past, and I've talked about it here today. I never felt 100% ready to go back on YouTube, and I'm learning that that is okay. And I think I held myself to a really high standard of always being perfect and always wanting to put the best version of myself out there. And that's not because anyone else put that pressure on myself other than me. And what I felt was that because I wasn't at my best, you guys didn't deserve to watch me at anything less than that or to, be around anything less than the best of the energy that I was putting out. So what I'm learning is that obviously there's always ebbs and flows in life and I'm not always going to feel 100%, but I can learn how to deal with that and still show up for you guys and do what I love on a consistent basis. But again, that is another episode. I just feel like there's so much that I want to talk to you guys about because we haven't caught up in literally so long. I feel like we're just sitting here on like FaceTime or with a glass of wine. This is a very fancy FaceTime if you were to see my setup right now. But I've just, I feel like the person that I left you as and the person that I am today are two completely different people. And I am really, really excited to reintroduce you guys to this version of myself. So let's talk about this new segment or I guess it's not a new segment. It is just the first segment that we are having here on My Thoughts Exactly. This is something that I've wanted to do. I've thought about it for a while, and I think it's going to be the perfect way to kind of close out each episode. And at the end of every episode, we're going to do something called the Thought of the Week. Get it? My Thoughts Exactly. The Thought of the Week kind of goes hand in hand. And we're also going to be doing, like I mentioned earlier, questions and, submissions from you guys. However, this is the first episode and you guys just learned about My Thoughts Exactly. So we're going to start that next episode. And like I said, make sure you're following the podcast Instagram because I more than likely will be telling you guys what each next podcast episode is about. And you guys can tell me what you want to be spoken about or what topics you want covered. But let's get into the thought of the week. And when I started thinking about what I wanted this first thought to be about, I was really, really torn because there was a part of me that was like, Savannah, make it witty, make it clever. Like, let's be sarcastic because if you know me, you know that is literally the basis of my entire personality. But this week's is not going to be like funny, witty, sarcastic. Who knows? Maybe next week's will. So the thought of the week this week is that whatever you want in your life, whatever business or business opportunity or career move that you want, whether it's a business you're thinking about starting, or like I said, a career move, something you want to change, or whether that's a feeling that you're holding off telling someone, whether it's finally making the decision to put yourself out there or telling someone how you're feeling, or whether that's just finally making the decision to put yourself first and becoming the best version of yourself, I really just hope that you guys go for it. And like I said, I know that's so cliche, but I have a lot to say about this, so allow me to explain. I know people say this all the time. This is definitely not the first time that you guys are hearing it. And I know it's not the first time you're even hearing it from me, but it's honestly so true. You do not want to let the fear of what could happen stop you from what you want. And there are so many instances in life that we put what we want on the back burner because we're afraid of what other people are going to think or what other people are going to say or how they're going to take it. And are they going to like it or are they going to make fun of me? Even into adulthood, that's still a prominent thought. At least it is for me sometimes. And I highly doubt I'm the only one. And then because of that, because of those fearful thoughts and those doubtful thoughts, we then often put things off and we say, okay, I'm going to wait and do this at a different date, or I'm going to wait until I have X amount of followers, or I'm going to wait until he or she makes a move and then I'll say what I want to say. But I really just want you guys not to wait because becoming the best version of yourself includes not being afraid of asking what you want. And it also includes, having the boundaries for yourself and having enough self-respect to show other people what you deserve. And for example, this is just a personal example. I've been sitting on the My Thoughts Exactly podcast for well over a year. And even leading up to the first episode, like I said in the beginning, last week I had this literally nervous mental breakdown because I was I don't know. I got really nervous and I was like, are people going to like it? Are they going to like me? I've grown from being the 20-year-old that was doing drive with me's and Starbucks, and I'm still the same girl to the core, but I've evolved as a person. Are they going to like that? Should I just stick with Killer Instinct? But honestly, there really is only one way to find out, and that is just by doing it. And I never want to look back and say, oh, well, what if I just started that podcast? I wonder what would have happened. I just don't want to ever have to wonder what if. And I don't want you guys to have any what ifs in your life. And I know that there is probably something in your life, unless you are just a super bold, say it how it is type of person no matter what. And if that's the case, then I commend you for that. But if you're anything like me, then there definitely is something ranging from a feeling you have that you want to tell someone, whether that's a relationship, friendship, anything like that, or if it's a health goal or a dream that you have, something you want to accomplish. I just think it's so important not to wait. Like, why wait? Nothing is ever guaranteed. And if you're going to be waiting for the right time, but the fact of the matter is that if you wait for the right time, you quite literally are going to be waiting your entire life. There is never going to be a time where you're like, you know what? This is the right time to do this. Because you have to take the risk in order to get the reward. So let's break it down. Let's break this down into a couple different sectors. Let's first start with relationships, whether that's platonic relationships, so like friendships, or like parent relationships, sibling relationships, or romantic relationships. We'll even throw situationships in there too, because those typically need a lot of help. Take this as your sign, honestly. If you're holding back how you're feeling or sitting on telling someone how you feel, good or bad, whether that's telling someone that you like them or telling someone you're done with them, it's time to say it. Don't keep that paragraph written in the notes app. And if you know, you know. And here, listen, I can definitely bring you guys toxic tips too, and I plan on doing so. But right now, we're going to be healthy, okay? So the biggest disservice that you could ever do for yourself is waiting around for someone else. Do not wait around for anyone. I look back and I think of my past relationships and past situationships, which were so god-awful, and I just realized I was the queen of waiting around. I would just sit back and, twiddle my thumbs because I didn't want to upset anyone. And I didn't want to seem too pushy or too needy or tell them how I feel, because God forbid I told them how I felt and I didn't know how they were going to react. And maybe they wouldn't like it. Maybe they wouldn't like what they hear, and maybe we don't talk anymore. So I would let the fear of, if I actually speak my mind and they don't like it, we're not going to talk anymore. So I'm going to sit here and drive myself insane because I would just rather not cause the issue. But this is where that was so screwed up, is because I was putting their peace and their comfortability on a pedestal while simultaneously spiraling and driving myself insane. And at the end of the day, I kept telling myself, why am I catering? Like, why am I catering to someone so heavily and walking on eggshells over someone that quite literally would not care if I fell off the face of the planet tomorrow? Now, they might be a little confused. They might be sad for maybe like 45 seconds, but after that, they're not going to care. They wouldn't. And so because of that, I'm here to tell you to say what you are feeling and to say what you want to say. And that's basically my Oprah way of telling you that if you don't, more than likely what is going to happen is it is going to bubble up inside of you until ultimately you cannot take it anymore. And it's going to come out one time or another. And sometimes it comes out at times you don't want it to. Or if you're like me, it'll come out when you're drunk. So either way, probably not the best. You don't want that. Trust me. And I have such a good story time that goes along with this exact topic that I am going to save for a later date because this is the introduction episode. But oh my God, you guys, it is so good. I cannot wait to tell you. But even if the answer, so let's say you say what you want to say, even if you're afraid that the answer is going to be something that you don't want to hear, which I'm not telling you it will be. You guys could very much, live happily ever after, whether that's a romantic relationship or you guys will be friends forever. I know that that's the scary part. And I know that that's the uncomfortable part of not knowing and not having that control of what's going to happen. But I promise you, the risk of being turned down or rejected in any sort of way is always worth it because it's putting you one step closer to where you're supposed to be and where you need to be. And what's meant for you is always going to be yours. And I've said it once, but I will say it again. If someone is stupid enough to let you go, you have to be smart enough to walk away. Because the fact of the matter is that what one person won't do, Another person will do 10 times over what you ever could have dreamed of. So just know, I know they say like rejection is redirection, and I hate that saying, but I think part of the reason I hate it so much is because it's so true. Because if one person rejects you, that's literally just shifting you into the direction of where you're supposed to go next. So that's ultimately going to put you exactly where you need to be. And again, this is not me saying that things will not go in your favor. I don't know. But what I do know is that knowing is better than not knowing and dragging yourself down a rabbit hole. Knowing and moving on is better than pretending and waiting. So all I'm saying is take control of the narrative. Take control of the narrative. Take control of your life. Don't wait for anyone. And again, everything could go great. And if that's the case, perfect. And if it does go the way you want it to go, you're going to sit there and you're going to laugh and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I wish I did that sooner. Either way, it's a win for yourself. So that's the whole relationship side of it. So now let's talk about career. So if you have a goal that you want to reach or something that you want to change, just do it. Go for it. And I know it's not always as easy as that, but just start by taking the steps that'll get you there. It can be small steps, baby steps, like tiptoe steps. It doesn't matter. Just start doing the steps to get you there. It is scary, but it is attainable. I promise you. And if you have hard work and determination, you can get started. And it's not going to happen overnight. It won't. But the least you owe yourself is to start and is to try. And right now, I really feel like I am a walking Hallmark card. But you know what I'm saying. Because you know that saying that's like, imagine where you'll be if you start in 6 months or a year. But if you wait until 6 months and a year to get started, you're going to be sitting there wondering how much further along you could have been by then. And the same goes for physical and mental health. If you have a goal, write it down and figure out how to get you from point A to point B. And oftentimes there's like 20 steps in between just to get you from A to B. But again, it's worth it in the end if it means that you're reaching goals that you set for yourself to ultimately become a better version of yourself. Everyone's constantly evolving. They're constantly changing. And there's always ways that you can better yourself, either mentally or spiritually, or, just taking better care of yourself all the way around, because that is what you deserve. You deserve to take care of yourself and you deserve to put yourself first. And next week, I'm really, really excited because we're going to do an episode all on romanticizing your life, which I feel like everyone deserves to do for themselves. It's not something I started to do until about like 6 months ago, and it completely has changed my life. It changes my way of living. It changes my outlook on life and my perspective. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys about that and to just give you tips and tricks. But that also falls into this physical and mental health category that's in here. So I'm not going to say too much about that because I'm going to save it for next episode. So the overall thought of the week is to trust yourself and to trust the process and to go after what it is that you want and to believe that you deserve good things, because you do. You deserve good things without having to try and self-sabotage themselves. And if you're looking for your sign to finally put yourself first, please just go for it. This is it. Your wants and your needs and your desires in life are so worthy, and you are so worthy. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. No, I'm kidding. That's like the most Hallmark I've ever sounded in probably 3 years. No, but I've missed you guys so much, and I've missed this so much. And this episode was so nerve-wracking for me. You have no idea. I procrastinated all day on filming it, not for any reason other than I was just nervous, and I was nervous about how it was going to come out. I'm still nervous about how it's going to come out. All of this is very new to me as well. So it's all a learning process. But again, thought of the week, just go for it. So that is what we are doing. But that, you guys, is going to be the first episode of My Thoughts Exactly. And I'm really excited. As much as I am anxious, nervous. It's all excitement and it's all good stress. There is such a difference between bad stress and good stress, but this is good stress. And I'm excited. Seeing how excited you guys were makes me so excited as well. And I'm really excited to see what kind of segments you guys want on here. So make sure you let me know on the My Thoughts Exactly Instagram page. That's going to be the sole source for everything when it comes to this podcast. And make sure if you're listening on any podcast platform that you also subscribe. That way you never miss an episode. We're posting every week on Wednesdays. So that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And like I said, next week's episode is all going to be on romanticizing your life. And I cannot wait. This is the type of stuff that I live for. I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. So make sure you drop your questions or things you want to talk about for next week in the comments below or on the Instagram page. But with that being said, you guys, that's all for me today. I will be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode of My Thoughts Exactly. And I can't wait to see you there. Bye, guys.